1. When behavior bends under pressure. How emotional, cultural, and linguistic strain reshapes behavior long before the words go wrong. Most client relationships begin with goodwill, reasonable expectations, and a genuine intention to collaborate. At the outset, communication feels straightforward. Messages land as intended. Decisions move forward with a shared sense of direction. Even when differences exist, they feel manageable. Then, often without warning, something shifts. The change is rarely dramatic. There is no clear rupture or confrontation. Instead, it appears in small, easily dismissed signals: a tightening of language, a delay where responsiveness was once reliable, an email that feels slightly different in tone. The words themselves may still be polite, even cooperative, yet the emotional temperature has changed. These early shifts are easy to overlook. They are often explained away as busyness, distraction, or temporary disruption. In reality, they are usually the first visible signs that pressure has begun to reshape how the client is communicating. Pressure reshapes behavior before it alters language. Pressure does not announce itself through obvious conflict. It works quietly, influencing behavior long before it shows up in the words themselves. As stakes increase, attention narrows. Cognitive load rises. Emotional regulation requires more effort. People begin to manage risk alongside meaning, often without realizing they are doing so. In global client work, pressure accumulates from multiple sources at once. Expectations may be unclear or contradictory. Decisions may carry consequences beyond the immediate conversation. Authority may sit elsewhere, even when responsibility appears local. When communication crosses languages and cultures, the effort required to sound competent, composed, and precise increases significantly. Behavior adapts to meet these demands. Responses shorten or soften. Commitments become provisional. Clarifications are postponed. Agreement is expressed in principle rather than detail. None of this reflects a lack of professionalism. It reflects the human tendency to protect credibility and control when conditions feel unstable. Protective behavior emerges under strain. As pressure builds, behavior becomes protective rather than expressive. Clients are not trying to obscure meaning, they are trying to manage exposure. A normally decisive stakeholder may hesitate when internal alignment has not yet been secured. A previously direct communicator may soften their language when disagreement feels risky. Someone who once asked questions freely may stop doing so when uncertainty threatens their professional image. Silence, delay, and vagueness often function as safety mechanisms rather than avoidance. These behaviors help the client preserve dignity when circumstances begin to feel unstable. They allow the person to remain engaged without feeling exposed, particularly in environments where being seen as uncertain, unprepared, or out of alignment carries real consequences. From the inside, these adaptations feel necessary and reasonable. From the outside, they are often misread. Cultural logic shapes how pressure is expressed. Culture plays a decisive role in how pressure is translated into behavior. In some contexts, strain produces indirectness. Maintaining embarrassment and harmony, avoiding relationships take precedence over precision. In others, pressure results in bluntness, speed, or visible control, because decisiveness is equated with competence. Neither approach is inherently better. Each is logical within its own cultural framework. Problems arise when behavior shaped by one cultural logic is interpreted through another. Indirect communication may be read as evasive. Directness may be experienced as aggressive. Silence may be mistaken for disengagement rather than respect. What feels responsible in one system may appear obstructive in another. Under pressure, people default more strongly to the cultural patterns they trust. This makes misinterpretation not only likely, but predictable. Multilingual strain amplifies behavioral shifts when conversations take place across languages. Pressure reshapes behavior even more quickly. Multilingual communication requires constant cognitive adjustment. Speakers process meaning in one language, translate internally, and then monitor their output for accuracy, tone, and social appropriateness dramatically under stress. This effort increases. As a result, language becomes more conservative. Vocabulary narrows. Sentence structures simplify. Speakers choose words that feel safe rather than exact. Pauses lengthen. Nuance is sacrificed to maintain fluency. A client who is articulate and confident in their first language may sound hesitant, vague, or overly cautious in another. This is not a failure of communication. It is a rational response to cognitive load. Meaning begins to drift before it breaks. Under sustained pressure, meaning does not disappear, it drifts. Intent remains present, but expression becomes less stable. Messages land slightly off-scent. Agreements are understood differently by each party. Assumptions quietly replace confirmation. This drift often follows a familiar pattern. A client agrees to direction without fully understanding the implications because asking for clarification feels costly. They revise their position later when missing information emerges. Tone shifts as internal permission changes. What appears inconsistent from the outside is often the result of delayed clarity rather than reversal. By the time misunderstanding becomes visible, the drift has usually been in motion for some time. Face saving quietly governs many client interactions in many professional and cultural environments. Face saving exerts a powerful influence on behavior. Protecting one's own credibility and the credibility of others is not optional. Confusion may go unspoken to avoid embarrassment. Disagreement may be softened to preserve respect. Commitments may remain ambiguous until certainty feels safe. Face saving is not deception. It is a social strategy designed to maintain stability in complex environments. When ignored or misunderstood, it becomes a major source of misalignment. Early signals are often misread. The behaviors described in this chapter usually appear long before communication collapses. Conversations feel heavier. Response patterns change. Language loses some of its clarity. Many professionals interpret these shifts as disengagement, resistance, or lack of commitment. In reality, they are often early indicators that pressure is beginning to distort the communication environment. Those who learn to recognize these signals gain a significant advantage. They can respond before frustration escalates, before trust erodes, and before corrective action becomes emotionally costly. Reading pressure is a leadership skill. The ability to recognize how pressure reshapes behavior is not a soft skill. It is a leadership capability. Professionals who develop this awareness adjust tone before tension rises. They stabilize meaning before drift becomes damage. They create space for clarity without forcing exposure. Instead of reacting to surface behavior, they work with the system producing it. This shift, from reacting to behavior to managing conditions, is the foundation of effective global client communication. From reaction to system awareness. Once behavior is understood as a response to pressure rather than a personal flaw, client dynamics become easier to navigate. Patterns replace surprises. Signals become intelligible. The relationship stops feeling unpredictable and starts to feel manageable. This chapter establishes the foundation for everything that follows. Before miscommunication can be prevented, before meaning can be stabilized, and before conversations can be guided back to calm, the forces shaping behavior must be visible. When pressure, culture, language, and face saving are recognized as active elements in the interaction, communication becomes clearer, steadier, and far more controllable.